Welcome, folks. How are you this evening? Hopefully well. It is what day is it? It's Tuesday. It's been a long day for me. I've been up since about 2:30 a.m. So and work today. So it's been a long one, but we're taking care of business, folks. We've got a long, well, I say long. We've got a upcoming intense studycation of sorts coming up. So looking forward to that. And as we know, I have 15 days to go, folks. 2 weeks. When you take out like some holidays, a little less than 2 weeks. So yeah, it's heating up here, and I'm looking forward to it though. I know that I've done a lot, and man, this screen looks really interesting here. I've been trying some different things with the lighting, folks. So give me a moment here to kind of straighten this out. I call myself fixing this prior to the stream, but it changed on me again. There we go. So yeah, 2 weeks ago, Mark Milo, thank you for streaming, even though you had a long day. Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that sentiment, and thanks for the encouragement, as always. Yeah, I wanted to stream. I'm doing okay, actually. I planned on it. It was kind of a planned thing. So I was able to get to sleep really early yesterday. That's why I did not stream. And I had to get up really early, take care of some business, and then I'm feeling okay right now. I'll probably study for another, couple hours before I go to sleep, and then get up tomorrow for an all-day study tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow, so. But yeah, I've been having a good day. I've just taken a little bit of time today, this morning actually. I had some time before work to go over some cards, Anki flashcards, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But let me get to a couple of subjects here in the vlog. The titles today is self-assessment with brutal honesty. Excuse me. Maybe I do need to go to sleep here soon. I referred to this a little bit, I think, 2 days ago. And essentially what I did over the weekend, and particularly on Sunday and a little bit of time yesterday, but not much, I went back over the blueprint. And remember, folks, as I stated before, the bluprint the blueprints are your guide to these exams, to the CCIE. I mean, I don't know how any other ways to say it. I mean, you cannot rely on one particular vendor, one particular book, or set of books or study guides to get you the knowledge that you need. You have to, of course, resort to numerous different sources of information. But the bottom line is you need to be able to cover every topic that is on the exam to the level it is described in the blueprint. So I went back over it again, and I've done this a few times during this journey. And I've gone back over it and marked in red. Now, I'm going through this pretty quick. It's a lot of red, but some of it is red in just certain areas that I'm already knocking some of this out, right? But anyway, all I could say is just be sure that when you're preparing for CCIE, written or lab, that you've got all these blueprint topics down, and it takes honesty. So if you're doing sort of a method that I do, and different people have different methods to go through and evaluate and find your weak areas prior to an exam, like in my case, about 2 weeks, what areas do I need to shore up? What areas do I need to focus on? I've already gone through all the course material, for the most part, that I set aside to do. And I've gone through and done some sort of sample labbing that I want to do. How do I know what my weak areas are? And yes, I have leveraged boson material. That's a really good tool to help you assess yourself. But hey, Casadix, how are you? Good night. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. This is Tuesday night, so we're getting through the week here. Yeah, so I think it's important to really understand what your weekend and be honest about it, because one thing that surprised me, this last boson review, and I mentioned this before, but I was pretty weak I was weaker than I thought I would be on network principles. And when I go back and I look at my past exam scores, I did look at the area of network principles. Actually, they're right here. Excuse me. I did. It's interesting. I got 67 both times, which is not really good enough. I need to get better. Like an 82 is kind of above what you need under services. That kind of surprises me, actually. But yeah, principles is lower than I expected, and layer 2. VPN consistently though low there in security. So I've really this time around bolstered VPN and security and services, I think. But one area that I did not bolster enough, well, I did quite a bit of work with IGMP, and I think that that's where I got hit in a lot of areas. But if I'm being brutally honest, when I say brutal honesty, that means taking away any self-serving bias, like, oh, I aced the CCNP switch exam, and I have a strong background in layer 2. Well, maybe you think you do, like in my case. And in reality, you got low scores on both attempts at layer 2. Why is that? So it takes some honesty to really say, look, there's not a lot of room for ego here. You got to go and say, okay, what did I get wrong with layer 2, right? What am I missing? And it may not be just the switching, it might be some of the other features, ether channel, loop guard, beware of loop guard, stackwise, and MST and RSTP, and some of these other features, STP dispute, bridge assurance. And there are some very subtle, complex areas here in layer 2. And I just sort of been dismissive in the past and not taking it seriously layer 2, but I do now for sure. And as you can see, I've marked a lot of areas as a C. Hey, boson ain't very high, so 1C there can be a little high on real exams. I'm trying to take in your question here. Hey, boson ain't very high, so 1C, there can be little real exams. Not sure I'm following you there. Basically, let's say I mark one particular area on the blueprint as a C, right? Okay, I know now. I marked that myself as a C, right? This is my own evaluation. Boson gave me an evaluation, right? But I went through here and I read on Sunday, read the entire blueprint, and I looked at every line, and I said to myself, and I went and I had the boson up, right, with the results also. I went through all the questions I failed. But then some of the areas that I passed, like if I passed an exam question on boson, but I wasn't confident in why I passed, and when I talked myself through it, I'm like, I really am weak on that. I'd mark it as a C. Boson questions are very elaborated more than on exams. Yes, they are. And the reason they are is because the boson gives you the answer. That's the problem. Like, let's say I take my exam results here, Casadix. Cisco, when you fail, 756, right? So that's 48 points short, which is not horrible, right? But when you look at that, it's only gonna break down by sections of the blueprint. VPN, that's it. It gives you 45 on VPN, and that's it. The boson, on the other hand, it's going to tell you, and I have some screenshots of this, by the way. It gives you a lot of detailed feedback after you take an exam in boson. I think I have some of these in, you know what, I may not have saved them. Yeah, I did not save the screenshots, but there are some past videos you can look at where I kind of review boson and how it works. And essentially it gives you breakdown, it tells you what questions were in which section. Like it tells you all the VBN questions and puts them in a section for you so you can look at them one by one. Not only that, if you look at the question itself, you can go back to the question you missed, and you can show the answer, and it will show you the correct answer. It will show you why the other answers were wrong. Also, the boson at the bottom will give you links, like this is the proof, or this is how you can read more. And that to me is a huge value of boson. One, evaluating and finding your own weaknesses. Because it's not that you expect that you're going to see the, you're not going to see the boson questions on the exam itself. Don't count on that at all. As a matter of fact, I have this through indirect knowledge, in other words, through hearsay, but that essentially one of the persons who creates the boson is involved in the boson producing the product, is very, respected member of the community, and is also on the review board or whatever it's called. There's a board that kind of is involved, a committee, in reviewing the current state of the CCI exams, and that person is involved in that. So obviously they would not be respected, and their product would not be considered respected if it was just some sort of brain dump. That it is not. But it is a tool that is very effective in showing you your weak areas and showing you how to study. Like, okay, this is a very subtle feature here that you were asked about. Well, what is that under, and where would you find this in the Cisco documentation, for example? And it gives a link, and that tells you the kind of detail and the types of documents that you need to be studying to prepare. So it's a really good product. I've not done a formal review of boson, I don't think. I think I wanted to wait to do that till after I passed, instead of saying, hey, I haven't really passed yet. I failed twice, but this is a great product. You know what I mean? Anyway, back to self-evaluation. So I've done this. I put some notes in here on some of the areas that I know I'm weak in. For example, HDLC. What are some of the differences from PPP, etc. So what I plan to do with these evaluation results has to do with my written plan going forward the next 2 weeks. And that is, I have a calendar that is up here. And what I've done is I've chosen through, this is a key part of my strategy here, this self-assessment. So tomorrow, the green days are full study days. I'm going to be going through the red areas of network principles. And I'm going to be reviewing material on that. I might be labbing some of it. So y'all are going to be off all day tomorrow. Stay tuned. Check us out on the Discord. If you're hanging around and, you want to see some labs, I may be labbing some things. So that is what I'm going to be doing. I have 5 days straight, and I'm going to cover 1 through 5. So, tomorrow network principles, Thursday will be layer 2, Friday layer 3, VPN, infrastructure security, so on. I may reserve, some of these may spill in to other days. The other thing I'm doing with this calendar is each day I want to just do some drills or some memory exercises with various tools I have at my disposal, and I want to rotate those so I'm not just using the same thing. Last time I think I spent a lot of time just kind of doing memory drills, just retaking the same boson exam questions. This time we're going to mix it up. So tomorrow in between, I'll take little breaks and I'll do the drill sheet. And I'll share more of that tomorrow. I'm going to update it tomorrow so it's more usable. And then these will be flashcards, both my own flashcards and the NeckerCube blog flashcards. By the way, this is one feature that's really cool. I have my own flashcard deck now that I've started working on, and I've spent a good bit of time on actually today. A lot of these are based on my written fail notes. So it's not something I can obviously share publicly, but what I like is I worked on another computer on this today, and I have it synced with my account. So instead of having to use like GitLab and a private repo, I can just use a built-in feature of Anki cards. As a matter of fact, the last Anki edit I made was on a Windows computer. Now I'm on this Mac, and as soon as I open it to look at my questions, it says, "Hey, what do you want to do? You're out of date. You want to download or upload?" So I'm going to download from Anki Web, and I really like that. It's very easy to keep it synced, and as you can see, I have my own deck now, and I've got quite a few that I've been building up in there lately. So, hey Shaw, Mr. Q, I'm here to watch for the kids. Hey, good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. I haven't caught your last. I saw that you posted, man. I'll be checking that out tonight as I'm going through some cards. Got to support the fellow streamer. So yeah, that's going to be my plan. Right now, I think I've got about 40 cards, which is not a lot. But again, I have the drill sheet, folks. The drill sheet is what I'm going to be working on tomorrow. And it got so out of date. And again, these are just tables, all these areas. The way this works, and I'll go over it again tomorrow, but essentially I have a question and an answer. And the question sheet is everything that is not colored in. So I have to fill out everything that is colored in. It's very intense, but it seems to help me in terms of this is a lot of memorization, like, TOS bits, DSCP bits, and BGP, path selection algorithm, things like that you really need to memorize, right? Rip timers. So I'm going to be going over that tomorrow. But to complement that, I have my own Flash Anki card deck now, and it's about, 40 cards, 30, 40 cards. But they're very like laser beam specific, and getting the answer, which a lot of them I have to because they're from my fail notes. I've already written out answers in a text file that I keep private, but now I'm making those cards so I can just go through those over and over until I memorize those. But most importantly is I have to make sure of the answer, and that's what I've been doing today. Is I've been like double checking my some of my answers, making sure, because these are notes from the actual exam. I don't know. Of course, I don't remember the entire question. I don't have that good of a memory. I don't remember all the answers that were provided, or in the case of like blocks, I don't remember all that, but I just remember the gist. So what I'm having to go back and do is really look at that topic on the blueprint and just figure out, why did I miss it? Why did I miss this question? Or why did I miss a question in this area or on this protocol feature? And I'm generating cards out of that, right? As I find information. So that's really it, folks. Brief tonight. Again, it's been a long day for me and not much to show here. Hopefully we'll be more tomorrow. But I do have one trivia question. And this is something that's not related to a failed question, right? That I had. I just want to put a disclaimer out there. Yes, I have posted some information on this infinity metric on both Instagram and Discord, but I'm very careful about not putting things out there that could in any way reflect what might be a question on the exam, right? But this is a legitimate question, and it's kind of memorization, right? What is the infinity metric in RIP? So if you know the answer, Ascetics. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. So, yeah, just think of it in your head. If you're just lurking, that's fine. If you got like, if you got a, what do they call those wet towels? Oh, so both, Mark Milo. I want to know what it is and what the value is of the infinity metric. So, and I would probably normally get this 9 out of 10 times if asked, but sometimes I think there's been a time or two where I've said it is, yes, show is correct, 16. So sometimes I've wavered on, is it 15 or 16? You know what I mean? Like, but now I've got a pretty solid in my head. It is 16. Um, and what does it do? Yes, more than 15 hops. So 15 hops is a valid route, but 16 hops is an infinity route or unreachable route, or can be used in a poisoning feature. Yes, route poisoning, exactly. As a matter of fact, that's what I posted in Discord earlier and on Instagram. No one's gotten it yet on Instagram, and I've had comments on it, several comments on it, and people haven't figured it out yet. So this is what I posted on Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, help somebody out. Because I was going to give them till tomorrow, because I usually post once a day. But you can spare someone some anguish and go out on Instagram and go ahead and post the answer if you want. But I posted this, like, why is this router 192.168.13.1? It is a RIP router. It has multiple interfaces participating in RIP, but it has sent a RIP update. They're called response messages, at least interpreted by Wireshark, with just a single network, right? 10.1.1.3, 255.255.255. Obviously, this is a host route, which is very likely a loopback interface, right? In which case, this one is. Next hop is 000. Someone responded on Instagram, and that's okay. Like, sometimes I'll tag these CCNP. This one I did not tag CCNA. I was probably overreaching, but some saw this and immediately latched on to the fact that the next hop is 0000. But and they were asking about, well, what about, is that like a default route or is it requesting default route? No. This is advertising as a single network, which if we looked at any of these other RIP packets, we would see that there are multiple networks on router 1. But as Marmilo deftly points out here, this contiguous network could cause that. No, not really. Well, I cannot think of an example where it might, to be honest. The key thing to hone in on here, Casadix, is the metric. So that's really the clue here, is that the metric is 16. And you'd have to think about, okay, when would RIP advertise to its neighbor a route with a metric of 16? That means that when I have the route, because when RIP advertises a route, let's say it's 10, the RIP is going to advertise the route from its point of view, what the metric is for the router sending the update. Then it's up to the router that receives the update to increment the metric to 11, right? So this is router, in this case, the router is sending from 192.168.13.1. This router is saying, look, I have a route and the metric is 16. It could also manipulate the route, right? Let's say the metric was 10, and I could do I could modify the metric before I advertise it and add 6. That could be a case. That still doesn't answer the question, why is a router sending a single route when it has multiple interfaces participating in RIP? Let's just suppose, for example, it has 5 loopbacks, all participating in RIP. So those are the clues here, and one, that the metric is 16, the other that is only sending a single network in this RIP packet. And why would RIP do that? Well, there are 2 instances, really one that I've come up with on a Cisco router. On a Cisco router, it will do route poisoning, and route poisoning is a way, in the case of RIP, for example, to notify its neighbors, hey, I had a valid route, but that route is no longer valid. It's poison. Don't try to come this way to reach this network, because in this case, for example, I shut down a loopback interface, and that triggered the the poison route. There is another case. We had some discussion on a Discord where, for example, on Cisco iOS routers, you would not see this case because they don't implement it that way, but that's called split horizon with poison reverse. And that's a feature intended to essentially let a, so let's say you have a broadcast link, and obviously split horizon rule means that RIP is not going to advertise a route as valid to the same interface it received the route from, right? That's a split horizon rule. And in the case of, and that's how Cisco implements RIP with just split horizon. The RFC says that you can use RIP. You can implement the protocol using split horizon with poison reverse. So in other words, not only is it not going to advertise the route from whence it came, it's going to let the router know that it's going to send a poison route out of that interface saying, hey, I got your route, but don't try to come this way to get to that route. In case, in some rare case, the route could make its way back from that router. I'm not sure exactly. I haven't studied all the use cases, and I don't think I will, just because there was a blog out there, a very detailed blog, where someone tried to theorize why you would use split horizon with poison reverse, but I didn't have time to read all of it. I'm like, you know what, Cisco doesn't even implement it anyway, although we did find that on the Nexus, there is a way to, it's disabled by default on NXOS. You can enable it. Probably gets overlooked because most don't bother practicing with RIP. True, but, and you can get away with that with a CCNP. Like, I don't think, you might want to lab it for the CCNP. I did a little bit of labbing of RIP prior to the CCNP, in particular the route and the T-shoot exams. But you cannot afford not to study it for the CCIE. You've got to study it for the CCIE. And you will see it in production networks still. It is used, and there are still use cases for RIP. RIP is cheap, it's simple, and for real small networks, it might be just thing to use. It also supports IPv6 also, remember that. Casadix, with the auto summarization on one of those routers, could receive two summaries for the same major network. One of the summaries will be infinity metrics. Oh, I get your point. So I'm not sure, Casadix, are you stating that there would be a summary route with infinity metric? I've not heard of that. Or were you kind of guessing on the question? I'm not sure. I did play a little bit with summarization. And Mark Milo, at least it's not too complicated. You have not hit it hard during your studies in the past, and all of a sudden see it in production. Right. Yeah. RIP is a pain in the butt, too, if you try to redistribute with it. It can become complicated really quickly. And again, that's what the CCIE is going to test for. Some very corner, difficult use cases, and something that they'd want to call a CCIE for, right? But yeah, there's some redistribution cases that are interesting. In fact, redistribution is kind of a, it's a good place to study redistribution in general using RIP. One, because it's easy just to configure the routing protocol, but it is deceitfully easy to configure RIP. Yet there are some very unusual, Show will tell you, he's seen it too, and I've seen it as well. There are some labs, and I've got one that, the way RIP will treat host routes, well, that's OSPF, but yeah, there are some very unusual sort of redistribution is hard, folks. Be very careful when you're doing. I've been working on redistribution last couple weeks. A redistribution change I've got coming up. Yeah. So yeah, RIP in and of itself as a distance vector protocol is pretty simple. But when you start talking redistribution, it can get in, and also the summarization can be interesting. Here's a question I would like to challenge the chat. Yeah, well, we'll just take a little time here. This is a good discussion. So here's the true or false. We have a bonus trivia today on RIP. True or false? Multiple RIP summary statements are allowed on a single egress interface. True or false? Am I allowed to add multiple RIP summary statements on a single egress interface? True or false? Any takers on that? I'm going to take a little coffee while y'all contemplate that. What we're talking about, of course, is since it's a distance vector protocol, right? One of the benefits of a distance or hybrid distance vector protocol is that you can summarize on a particular interface, right? Because you don't have a database of all the links in the network like you do with ISIS and OSPF, right? It's it's neighbor to neighbor. So I can summarize networks on a interface towards another neighbor, right? And Kasadek says it is true, and that is correct. You are allowed to put multiple RIP summary statements on a single interface, but Show is saying, yes, but I think only the summary who matches the major classful network will be advertised. And that is true on a when summarization is enabled. So I believe you're correct there, Show. Now, when you're using no auto summarization, you can put multiple summary statements on there, summary address statements. However, if there is overlap, and I labbed this today, so that's a question. Let's say I have, okay, so we've established that we can do multiple summary statements. Let's say we have RIP, router RIP, version 2, no auto summary, interface JAS00, IP summary address RIP, and let's say we have 100 loopbacks on this interface, so on this router. So I can use I have a lot of address space to work with here, right? So let's say I have 10.1.1.0. And on these summary addresses, you do specify the network mask, right? Not the wildcard mask. And let's say I do IP summary address RIP 10.1.0.0. Okay. So first of all, the parser is going to allow me to do this. At least I have seen on the iOS version I'm using, 15.3, I think, that it does allow these statements to be added to the running configuration. Question is, what does it advertise? Now, I'm going to double check that, Show, now that you mention it. But everyone's free to give their hypothesis here. I did a lab on this earlier, like this morning. And I believe, I could be wrong on this, but I think what it's going to do, it's going to advertise 10.1.0.0, 205.205.2.0.0. So what it does when there are multiple routes and one network is a subnet of another network, it's going to take the best summary address to use in that case. But we'll just confirm that here in a moment. Let's load up. I'm going to use my local version of Eve. See, we did end up labbing after all. And that's okay. Actually, this is a lab I did earlier, so... It's funny, yeah, this is just kind of reviewing material and not sure about the answer and reading different things. I'm like, you know what? You know the one way to find out is to lab it. And look at Wireshark, right? Wireshark don't lie. I get impatient. All right, so I think I already did this and I saved it. I moved it out. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just doing like some different little use cases here. All right, let's start all the routers. Hopefully I saved the config here. Exported it. So yeah, so in this network, we got 3 routers. This is how I generated, by the way, this. So I'm doing a PCAP on this particular lab right here. I just connected 3 routers and I connected them to each other in a triangle just using 192.168 space. And then I created loopbacks on all 3, I believe. And I think I have some summary addresses on router 1 here, going towards router 2. Yeah, RIP, you know, it's cheap. Like, so I know that on let's talk about the iOS base image. Like, you have different licenses, right, for what you can do on a Cisco router out of the box. And generally, a lot of routers that you order, or even multi-layer switches, you'll order them with, unless you specify otherwise, a lot of them are just going to come with what's called IP base license. With IP base license, you can run EIGRP. However, at least on the platforms I've worked on, if you don't buy the extra IP services license, then you can run that router with EIGRP, but it will only work as a stub router. So that's, in a lot of cases, that's not going to cut it, right? So you have to have the IP services. But I believe with IP base, you can run RIP. I may be wrong about that. So it could be, for a small network, it could represent a significant cost savings to run RIP over, EIGRP or even OSPF, which is going to require IP services. Let's see, IP base RIP protocol. Let's just see if that is the case here. I wasn't talking to you, Siri. Let's see, just random Google search here. Does support NAT. You'd have to look at a list for that particular platform to be sure. Let's say Oh yeah, you also have LAN base, LAN light. Those are for switch platforms. Does have QS, rate limiting ACL, static information. So yeah, RIP. Obviously, this is not an official document or anything, but I believe that, right? And actually, it doesn't list EIGRP, but at least on some platforms. Oh, here's a comparison. It's kind of garbage. But yeah, so RIP is a poor man's routing protocol. And this lab's running a little sluggish. It's been running throughout the day, so we'll free up some resources here. This won't take long, folks, because I think, like I said, I already have this labbed out with summary addresses configured. And I may be doing some labbing on my in Azure this week. Okay, so router 2 is up. Show run interface jazz 00. I do have a cloud lab. I have not done much in it because I haven't really done a lot of labbing. Just like little small scenarios here and there. So we actually have 4 summary addresses configured on GI00 router 1 towards router 2. And hopefully all these interfaces are actually up. Yeah, but I've had this lab like up all day. Okay, most of these are up. So if I look here, show IP route RIP. Not what I wanted to do. Oh, this is like nails on a chalkboard for me. I try to get in the habit of doing no IP domain lookup. Because when you don't, and the lab's running slow, and you hit the wrong key, you might as well just go bang your head against the wall. Show IP route RIP. Like when I do that a lot. Yeah, this thing is running really sluggish right now. Okay, notice we're not too concerned about metrics of 2 because metric of 2 means it's coming from router 3. I want to see what is coming from router 1. We can actually do a PCAP here. I think. Yeah, acting really weird. We'll be on Azure tomorrow. What are those summary routes? Okay, so I've got this 10110, 10100 with the /16, and then I have a host route of 10111/32. And I've also summarized the 20 network. Look at our RIP configuration. So I think what's happening here, folks, is I'm learning. So these summary routes are not going into the routing table because I'm learning better routes from router 3. Router 3 is sending the longer prefix matches. Well, no, that should not That should not be the case. Let's see what happens here in our PCAP. It should still advertise the summary route. You can see it in the show IP protocols. Here are the summarizations, right? So it is sending the summary, or at least would appear to be. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the lab, folks. We have to, you know what? I may just do this tomorrow. Because this is sort of, it's like the snowball sliding down the hill and getting bigger and bigger. This lab is having some issues today. It's tired. It's been up since really early this morning, just like me. I think we'll end it there, folks, and I will post an update on that. Sorry to leave you hanging on the RIP question, summarization. If I recall correctly, though, for what I saw this morning, when there are conflicting multiple summary addresses, and some of them include supernets or subnets, it's going to send the best, it's going to select the best summary address to use. As long as it has an interface active in that network. And it can only be a single interface like this loopback, and it will send that summary, right? I think to your point, Casadix, so if, for example, router 1, let's say it's sending a summary address that includes 10.0.0.0/8, and it loses all the interfaces that it has in that network, then yes, I think it's foreseeable that it would actually send a poison summary route to the neighbor, because that summary would no longer be valid. So you may be right. And I may lab that tomorrow just to see, and we'll do that tomorrow morning. So let's talk schedule, folks. Tomorrow, I have this beat chunk, by the way. This is was posted in Discord by Jax. A new lab vendor out there. I forget what it's called. This is David Bomble's. So instead of GNS3, this, of course, is called LabNet 3 or something like that. Oh, don't get me banned here.
Well, this is definitely...
He's doing a giveaway where you can get time. Live Labs 3. Yeah. So, yeah, check it out. You can enter to win 500 hours in his new Live Labs. So, yeah, and tomorrow, I don't know, folks. It depends. So, probably, I'd say anywhere between 10 and noon. I'll start streaming and maybe doing a lab or two. Maybe we'll finish this. See, it's just now booting the platform image. So anyway, folks, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it. I know it's gone longer than I had anticipated, but sure appreciate the chat and everybody stopping by, saying hello and wishing you the best. We're sending you good bits out on this Tuesday night. Post a link to vote, man. Okay, I will. I was just thinking, I've posted this a lot, but this is for the IT blogs of the year in the category. Well, that's for all the categories, but of course we were nominated in the best podcast or video series. So if you haven't voted yet, yes, definitely give us a vote out there. Appreciate it. And we will see y'all tomorrow morning. Sending good bits to everybody. Have a great night. Good labs, good bits, good chapters, whatever you happen to be doing tonight. Maybe you're working. And we shall see you back here tomorrow on Land Tamer Stream.